Saving. Saving, the ability to continue your game from where you left off. However, it hasn't always been a luxury provided by games. Arcade games, for example, wouldn't even consider saving your progress other than a high score and would actually rip your arms off for asking. Even the first wave of home console games didn't have the ability to let you save. The closest thing was games like Metal Gear that had a code system where when you wanted to save, the game would give you a code that you could input later to return to where you left off. Until, wow, 1986, when the first home console game with a true save system was released, The Legend of Zelda. And thus the mechanic of saving your game was born. However, it is just that, a video game mechanic, which can only mean one thing. Bullshit! Since its creation, game developers have taken it upon themselves to modify the save function in order to create a more personalized gaming experience. By controlling where, when, and how you can save, the game can communicate a lot about its intentions and world design, almost like a conversation with the player. But sometimes that communication is less like a conversation and more like that one guy at a party drunkenly screaming at everyone while they quietly wait for him to either pass out or die just so that the situation can end. There is nothing I hate more than when a game weaponizes its save mechanic to make the game artificially harder. That's not true. War is pretty bad. And so is famine. Basically, if it's a horseman of the apocalypse, it's probably worse, but nothing else. Somewhere between the extremes of, you can save whenever, it's fine, T. In fact, we'll save for you whenever you do anything. And, fuck you, you wanna save? Go find an ink ribbon, pussy. I hope you don't run out, because we tied our save mechanic to a finite resource. We're Resident Evil 1, bitch! Is a perfect medium that adds a sense of importance to saving, while not becoming unnecessarily stressful by withholding saves from the player. I'm not gonna approach these in any particular order. I'm mainly just gonna throw out games and talk about their save systems. For example, Fear and Hunger is the reason I started making this video in the first place. It's an RPG Maker game that, until about 2 months ago, really only had a fan base in Russia, which, all respect to them, they think it's a very good life sim, which is why we label it as psychological horror. Fear and Hunger takes the Dark Souls approach to storytelling, of not telling you shit and beating you senseless. One of the ways it does this is through literal coin flips. Sometimes in battle, enemies can trigger a coin flip, which, if you lose, instantly kills you. But this isn't a video about Russian life sims, this is a video about save points. Why are you talking about... Oh no. Yes, at many of the few save points present in this game, you are presented with a coin flip, which, if you lose, can immediately kill you or force you into a combat encounter with an incredibly tough enemy. This pisses me off. The idea that, wow, our game is so quirky and dark, we're gonna punish the player for even trying to save. Now, I'm not even averse to trap save points. I think they can be very powerful if used correctly. If used correctly. A trap save point should be used after establishing, quote, safety at those points and then flipping that on its head. Locking almost every save behind 50-50 odds is pointlessly punishing to the player for trying to utilize a necessary mechanic. It's not even a case of get good that rewards skilled players. It's a case of get lucky and fuck you. It just feels shitty and unnecessary. Speaking of shitty and unnecessary, Resident Evil 1. You can run out of the ability to save. These feel stupidly punishing, both for different reasons and no reason. I feel like Resident Evil is more obviously fucking dumb. Saving is a critical part of the gaming experience, and locking that behind a physical item that the player has to happen across greatly limits the freedom the player has to play and enjoy the game. A tale as old as time, a gamer deep into his gaming bout when, from atop the stairs, his mother hearkens. Hark, son, 'tis time to polish the dish and cutlery, lest we disgrace our family name. And in such a case as the gamer has found an ink ribbon knot, the game shall deliver a message of, verily, fuck you. Now, both of those are, for the most part, checkpoint saves, but I feel like it's a misrepresentation of them if I talk about only those two games. Super Mario Bros. Shamelessly uses checkpoints, only letting you save after completing a castle or tower. If you get a game over before completing the next one, then you're brought all the way back to the last one you completed, which does add stakes and motivation to not wanting to lose all of your lives, but feels a little bit tedious when your punishment is having to re-beat the levels that you already have. However, later games did implement a quick save feature, which does circumvent the Mother Harkins situation. And that's actually it. That's every video game. We did it, guys. Good job. Next round's on me. On the other side of those games are games that either auto-save frequently or allow the player to save whenever they want. Now, these are usually much less egregious, but still come with some drawbacks. mechanics. For one, stopping to save in the middle of a high-risk scenario immediately takes me out of the immersive experience. I don't give a shit about Link as a character, partly because the game gives me the powers of an immortal time god, in which everything I do, I can undo. Now there's obviously the you control what buttons you press argument, but if you're gonna give me a save button, I'm gonna use that goddamn save button. And on top of that, the games don't give you that unmatched and cozy feeling of safety. As much as I was bitching about Resident Evil 1, it nails that brief feeling of safety in its save rooms, giving the player that breath just for a moment. Autosave and quick save games like this also, yeah, that's all I could think of. So the perfect save system would ideally not punish you for using it, would never pull you out of the immersion, would offer stakes to encourage the player to not mindlessly run into bullshit and die, would offer a sense of safety and shelter from the rest of the world, and would be quickly or constantly available so as not to impede real life. Ooh, it's feeling a little cold. I'm a bit chilly. Maybe I could warm myself next to this bonfire. Despite all of my problems with Dark Souls, specifically Dark Souls 1, and believe me, I have a lot of them, the Dark Souls bonfire does its job as a save point incredibly well. The Dark Souls bonfire is an almost perfect example of what I refer to as a pseudo save point. A pseudo save point gives all of the benefits of a save point with few of the downsides. There's an in-game reason for them to be there. When you die, you'll be sent back to the last one you rested at, and they'll offer you that sense of safety, while at the same time not actually being where you save your game, giving you the flexibility to stop playing whenever you need to. However, I do think that there's one game that does this mechanic slightly better, and it's a game that I've sucked off on this channel before. Hollow Knight is the greatest Metroidvania ever made, and probably my favorite game of all time, in part because of benches. Benches are very similar to bonfires, with the notable exception that every time you start the game, you will start from the last bench you sat at. And that feeling of knowing I'll start the game in a safe place, from where I can get my bearings and chart my adventure from there, to me, makes Hollow Knight benches the best save point in all of video games. Thank you for watching this incredibly biased and very meandering video. If you did enjoy, please consider subscribing. I do this weekly, and click here to watch a video where I talk about inspirations for video games.